The Last of Us Season 2 is out. Episode 4 is the latest, and it is bombing.
People hated The Last of Us Part 2. It was massively divisive.
The Last of Us was plagued by complaints of bad casting, and The Last of Us 2 is not faring much better.
The creator of the show is finally speaking out about its failure. The Last of Us creator Craig Mazin admits Season 2 was a failure.
No one expected this. Not the fans, not the critics, and definitely not Bella Ramsey. When The Last of Us Season 3 trailer suddenly dropped online, with Kaitlyn Dever front and center as Ellie, everything changed. But the most shocking reaction wasn't from fans. It came from Bella herself. Because according to sources close to the production, Bella Ramsey didn't just disagree with the casting choice, she was absolutely furious. This wasn't a minor recasting, this wasn't an artistic change, this was personal. Because Bella poured her soul into Ellie through trauma, transformation, and some of the most emotionally raw performances in modern TV history. And now, she's been replaced. Publicly and allegedly without warning. So before we dive into the real madness, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next. The real bombshells are just getting started.
The Last of Us was plagued by complaints of bad casting, and The Last of Us 2 is not faring much better.
The finale drew over 50% less than the finale of Season 1. You lost half of your audience.
Have you changed up your impression at all, or is it pretty much the same?
Well, the noise is the same. I've not got any more noises in my back pocket. The new infected are pretty terrifying. They're so smart, and they haven't really got a noise. That's the whole point of them. They're silent and terrifying.
Ooh, give us a little silent and terrifying.
It happened without warning. No HBO press release, no sneak peek announcement, just a leaked trailer that hit Twitter like a bomb. In the dimly lit footage, a young woman with a cold stare and blood on her hands walks through the ruins of a collapsed safe zone. The voiceover cuts in, low, emotional, and chillingly familiar. But it's not Bella Ramsey. That's when the internet stopped breathing. Because the girl in the shadows wasn't Ellie as we knew her. It was Kaitlyn Dever. At first, fans thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe it was a side character, maybe a dream sequence. But the scene cuts again. This time showing her flipping open Ellie's iconic switchblade, and boom, there's no denying it. Kaitlyn Dever is Ellie now. The buzz turned into confusion. Confusion turned into shock. And within an hour, shock exploded into outrage. Some viewers noticed subtle hints throughout the trailer. A familiar backpack, a recreation of the hospital hallway. Dialogue lifted word for word from the video game's final chapter, but instead of excitement, fans flooded the timeline with one question. Where is Bella Ramsey? Because whatever this new version of Ellie was, it wasn't what anyone expected. And it certainly wasn't what they were promised. The leak spread like wildfire. Reddit threads, reaction videos, and side-by-side comparisons popped up in real time. TikTok exploded with edits of Bella's most intense scenes from Seasons 1 and 2, layered with sad music and betrayal commentary. Even major media outlets began asking, had HBO just silently recast the role without so much as a whisper? Fans weren't just shocked, they were heartbroken. They had grown with Bella, watched her evolve, cried with her. To see her replaced like a footnote felt like a gut punch to everyone who believed in her version of Ellie. And the worst part? She had no idea it was coming. Behind the curtain, things were even uglier. According to insiders close to the production, Bella Ramsey found out about the trailer the same way the rest of us did, through Twitter. One anonymous crew member said Bella was completely blindsided, calling it the most disrespectful rollout they'd ever witnessed in a major production. The moment she saw Kaitlyn's face in the footage, she reportedly stormed out of a private meeting. She didn't post a statement. She didn't make a public scene, but her actions said it all. Within hours, she'd unfollowed the official HBO account, removed all Last of Us references from her bio, and soft-blocked several crew members she'd worked with for years. Quietly, but deliberately, she began cutting ties. It was the kind of silent rage that says more than words ever could. People close to her say she was shaking with frustration, not just because she was replaced, but because of how it was done. No call, no heads up, no explanation, just a trailer, a new face, and a network that seemed to pretend like Bella Ramsey never existed. After carrying the emotional weight of Seasons 1 and 2, she'd been erased from her own legacy. The betrayal cut deep. Bella had poured herself into the role of Ellie. She'd endured online harassment, intense physical scenes, and long production hours to bring the character to life. Her performance in the farmhouse scene alone had been described by critics as Emmy-worthy. And now, it was like none of it mattered. Sources say she confronted one of the producers by text. Her words reportedly, "You didn't even give me the chance to say goodbye." That line alone spread across fan accounts like wildfire, because for fans who watched her grow from hesitant survivor to hardened protector, Bella was Ellie, and HBO just threw her away. As soon as the trailer hit the algorithm, the internet began splitting down the middle. On one side, you had fans who saw Kaitlyn Dever and said, "That's who it should have been all along." They pointed to her physical resemblance to the video game Ellie, her intense resume of dramatic roles, and the fact that she was one of the original fan cast favorites back in 2020. "It's a correction," they argued. "We're finally getting the Ellie we deserved." But that opinion wasn't universal, and it wasn't gentle. The other half of the fandom came swinging with loyalty, rage, and receipts. "Bella earned this. She bled for this role," one fan tweeted. Another wrote, "Kaitlyn is good, but Bella made us feel it." Emotional edits flooded YouTube and TikTok, compilations of Bella's rawest moments set to melancholy piano music, often paired with captions like "Our Ellie Forever." The discourse didn't stop at fan opinions. It spiraled into a war of identity and ideology. People began dissecting old interviews, comparing the actresses' personalities, analyzing their political leanings, and turning it into a full-blown cultural battle. Kaitlyn, despite her talent, was labeled a safe recast, a studio-friendly option who would never rock the boat. Bella, on the other hand, had become a symbol of defiance and authenticity. Even gaming communities chimed in. Hardcore fans of the original Last of Us video game debated whether HBO had lost sight of what made the character great in the first place. Some argued that Kaitlyn's look fit the game better, while others insisted Bella had redefined the role and deserved to carry it through the story's darkest chapter. It was more than casting. It was emotional investment. Bella Ramsey didn't just play Ellie. She became her. Through grief, through loss, through vengeance. And now the audience is being asked to reset, to forget, to move on. Not everyone's ready to do that. The deeper fans dug, the murkier things became. Some began to suspect that this wasn't just a sudden decision, it was a long game. Whispers surfaced that HBO had been considering Kaitlyn Dever since before Season 1 even aired, that she had auditioned for Ellie early on, and only lost the role due to scheduling conflicts. If true, that meant the studio never let go of the idea of bringing her in, just waited for the right time. Sources close to the production hinted that tensions between Bella and the writers began during Season 2. Reportedly, Bella pushed back on a few darker storylines, suggesting that Ellie's arc was veering too far from the heart of who she was. "Bella wasn't difficult," one insider clarified. "She was just protective of the character. Too protective, maybe." Another red flag? Multiple key directors from earlier seasons were quietly replaced. The showrunners, meanwhile, began hiring writers who had worked on grittier, more brutal dramas. It looked like a creative pivot, and Bella didn't fit the new mold. "They wanted violence," the source said. "She wanted emotion." Then came the reshoots. Fans noticed certain Season 2 scenes felt off, as if they were setting up a transition that hadn't been in the original script. The final scene where Ellie looks into the mirror for an unusually long time, some now believe it was symbolic. HBO knew a new face was coming. The betrayal wasn't just in the casting, it was in the setup. Fans feel like they were fed a slow burn recast in disguise, like HBO planted the seeds while pretending Bella would return. But behind the scenes, the writing was already on the wall. In the hours after the trailer leaked, Bella Ramsey's social media turned from quiet to cryptic. A photo of a broken mirror, a black screen with the caption, "Legacy means nothing to people with short memories." Then a Spotify link to Florence plus the machines shake it out. No explanation, no context, just silence and symbolism. Fans read into every post. Was she lashing out? Was she mourning? Was she done? Theories flooded comment sections. Some thought she was subtly calling out HBO. Others believed she was saying goodbye on her own terms. Whatever the case, one thing was clear. Bella wasn't taking this lying down. Her Instagram story the next morning featured a blurry photo of her standing at the edge of a cliff, captioned simply, You don't own the ocean. You just stood near it. Again, no names. But the metaphor? Crystal clear. She built something with Ellie, and someone else stepped in to claim it. It wasn't just about being replaced. It was about being erased. About how easily years of effort could be brushed aside by a studio hungry for ratings and spectacle. About how women in this industry, especially young, emotional, opinionated ones, are often labeled difficult the moment they assert themselves. Bella's fans weren't having it. They rallied around her, turning her comments into memorial walls of support. Edits, fan art, quotes, messages like, "You'll always be our Ellie." In the face of silence from HBO, Bella's cryptic post said more than any press release ever could. And now, the world is watching her next move. As the controversy grew, HBO could no longer pretend everything was fine. They finally released a statement, but it was the kind of vague, corporate messaging that only made things worse. "We remain committed to telling Ellie's story with the emotional depth it deserves," the press release read. Notably, it didn't mention Bella Ramsey. Not once. Fans were quick to point out the obvious. This wasn't a statement. It was an evasion. There was no explanation for the casting change, no gratitude for Bella's work, no transparency, just a hollow message about narrative direction. And that's what really infuriated people, because it felt like HBO was trying to gaslight its own audience. The backlash intensified. Critics, fans, and even casual viewers started dragging the network. Tweets comparing HBO's treatment of Bella to other high-profile betrayals, like Gina Carano's removal or the Game of Thrones finale, flooded timelines. Memes mocking the studio's coldness, and TikToks calling for a boycott hit millions of views. People didn't just want answers, they wanted accountability. After all, this wasn't some minor supporting character being recast. This was Ellie, a core emotional pillar of the entire franchise. And by refusing to speak Bella's name, HBO seemed to be rewriting history in real time. Behind closed doors, executives reportedly held emergency damage control meetings. But the internet had already made up its mind. This wasn't just a creative decision, it was a betrayal. And the more HBO stayed silent, the louder the outrage became. While HBO fumbled its PR response, Kaitlyn Dever finally spoke out, though some say it was already too late. She posted a carefully worded message on Instagram. "It's a tremendous honor to carry Ellie's story forward. I hope to do her justice and respect everything she represents." The post was elegant, but glaringly neutral. There was no mention of Bella, no acknowledgement of the backlash, no nod to the storm swirling around the role. For many fans, it felt cold, disconnected. "You can't just act like Bella didn't exist," one commenter wrote. "This role was built on her pain." The comment section quickly turned hostile. Still, Kaitlyn had her defenders. Some fans praised her professionalism and said she shouldn't be blamed for a studio decision. "She's just doing her job," one person said. "She's a great actress. Give her a chance." But the pushback was fierce. The number sign "Not My Ellie" hashtag reemerged, and old interviews resurfaced comparing the two stars' views on Ellie's emotional core. To make matters worse, industry insiders hinted that Kaitlyn's team had been preparing for this backlash long before the trailer dropped. One source said her PR handlers advised her to avoid all mention of Bella to keep the focus on the future. But that strategy only fueled the fire. Fans didn't want clean transitions. They wanted closure. In the end, Kaitlyn's silence on Bella's contributions spoke volumes. Whether intentional or not, it created a narrative where one woman was erased so another could step in. And while Kaitlyn may have Ellie's weapon and wardrobe, Bella still had the fandom's heart. As online debates boiled over, whispers from inside the industry began leaking into public view. Multiple sources from the production side spoke to anonymous blogs and message boards, and what they described was messy. One key staffer claimed that Bella Ramsey clashed with HBO showrunners over creative decisions during season 2. According to the leak, Bella expressed discomfort with certain changes in Ellie's arc, especially scenes where Ellie's violence became more brutal and detached. Bella reportedly told writers, "She's not a monster, she's grieving. Let me feel that." The writers disagreed. They wanted intensity, Bella wanted vulnerability. That creative standoff, some say, marked the beginning of the end. Soon after, studio conversations about finding a new direction allegedly started behind closed doors. And that's when Kaitlyn Dever's name returned to the table. She had always been a strong contender. Her agents were reportedly contacted, availability checked, and sample reads discussed, all while Bella was still under contract. Some insiders described the move as strategic. They didn't want to fire Bella, one source said. They wanted to quietly replace her, keep the brand intact, and hope the audience would roll with it. Another compared it to a corporate restructure, efficient, silent, and ruthless. Bella wasn't let go with a bang. She was written out with a whisper. By the time the trailer leaked, it was already done. Bella had been phased out, not with malice, but with calculation. No farewell, no closure, just a new face, a new voice, and a new story to sell. It wasn't a firing, it was a vanishing act, and fans weren't buying it. With the truth spilling out, legal experts began weighing in. Could Bella Ramsey take action? Was this a violation of her contract? It turns out the answer isn't simple. Industry attorneys explained that most actor contracts include creative discretion clauses, giving studios the right to recast or rewrite based on story needs. But how they handle that process? That's where things get shady. Some reports claim Bella's team was never formally told she'd been replaced. Instead, she was left in the dark, with communication slowing to a trickle until it stopped altogether. If that's true, there may be legal grounds for breach of professional conduct, if not the contract itself. Fans began speculating about a potential lawsuit, not necessarily for money, but for the principle. Bella's sudden removal and the way it was publicly revealed could be seen as reputational harm, especially if the whispers about her being difficult were planted to justify the switch. Character assassination dressed as studio spin. Social media rallied hard. The number sign Justice for Bella hashtag surged back into trending territory. A Change.org petition demanding HBO reinstate her crossed 100,000 signatures within days. Some fans even began organizing review bomb campaigns for Season 3, warning that if Bella wasn't acknowledged properly, they wouldn't watch. And through all of this, Bella stayed mostly silent. But her followers knew this wasn't over. Whether through a legal team, a tell-all interview, or an unexpected cameo, Bella Ramsey was not walking away quietly. Not from Ellie. Not from the stories she helped redefine. HBO wanted to control the narrative, but now the narrative controls them. With fans split, media dragging their handling, and the cast walking a PR tightrope, the future of The Last of Us Season 3 is anything but certain. What was once their crown jewel is now their biggest risk. Kaitlyn Dever, while talented, is stepping into a role drenched in drama. Every scene she plays will be dissected, every line compared, every emotional beat measured against Bella's legacy. The pressure is astronomical, and one wrong move could collapse the entire rebooted arc. For Bella Ramsey, the damage may already be done, but so has the impact. Whether or not she ever returns to the show, her portrayal of Ellie lives on in the hearts of fans. She's no longer just an actress who played a part, she's a symbol of integrity in an industry that too often forgets loyalty. And HBO, they now walk a razor's edge. Do they acknowledge Bella publicly? Do they let the backlash ride out? Or do they double down and push Season 3 forward like nothing happened? Every decision from this point on will be watched with microscopic scrutiny. What was once a beloved adaptation of a masterpiece video game has turned into a cautionary tale of corporate ego, silent betrayal, and fractured loyalty. And in the process, HBO may have destroyed more than just a casting contract. They may have severed their connection to the very audience that made this show a phenomenon. Bella Ramsey may be off the call sheet, but she's not out of the picture. Her Ellie isn't just remembered, she's revered. Her emotional intensity, her vulnerability, her pain, it connected with millions. And no matter how many trailers HBO drops, they can't delete that connection. The real legacy of The Last of Us isn't just about infected landscapes or action scenes, it's about humanity, loss, and survival. Bella embodied all of that. She was the soul of the show. And now that soul is gone, but not forgotten. Fans aren't letting this go. They're reposting scenes. They're tagging HBO execs. They're making noise. Because this wasn't just a recast, it was a betrayal. A quiet, calculated removal of someone who gave her everything to a role that meant everything. Kaitlyn may carry the torch now, but Bella lit the flame. And whether it's in a courtroom, a comeback, or just a cultural reckoning, one thing's clear: Bella Ramsey's Ellie isn't over, she's just waiting for the right moment to return.